Greetings, everyone. My name is Chris, and I'm in charge of training, engagement, and onboarding for DataAU. I'm looking forward to presenting today a rather quick session. It's one of our feature spotlights in that we've just released and launched the tourism portal for DataAU. Over the next 40 minutes or so, I'm just going to be talking through some of the features and unique capabilities of the platform. So I'm just sharing the screen now. What I'm going to do is walk through a quick slide deck and talk through a little bit about that. But my role in itself is engagement and onboarding for DataAU. I enjoy that it's quite varied and that my role is to assist a lot of those who use the platform in its varying capacities. Obviously, there are many different regions and workflows in which it can support. So that does present a lot of opportunity for knowledge exchange, and one of those being the webinars that we run today. I'm going to keep the session to about 45 minutes and allow for time at the end if there are any questions. Obviously, for those who have attended previous sessions, you know that I probably keep it to a relatively moderate pace. The goal here, and if it's okay with everyone who is in attendance today, the session is being recorded so that you're able to access that at a future stage and share those the recordings with your colleagues as well. Happy to forward a link to all of those who are in attendance as well. But as I mentioned, it is the tourism portal launch for DataAU. My name is Chris, and my contact details are just on the screen there as well. In and of itself, the DataAU's tourism portal unlocks unique insights into your region and is a game changer for a wide range of users, particularly for those who seek to support tourism activity and resilience in their region and leverage the growth potential for tourism and visitation across regions of Australia. So with this, you're able to compare against any other regions, you're able to view future projections, and you're able to see where people are coming from, your source market or origin locations, both domestically and internationally as well. But just before I jump into the portal itself, a little bit of background for the rest, or for those who have not been able to attend a webinar to date. AEC Group is the group that actually the DataAU fits within, and AEC is an economic advisory firm with multiple competencies as well. We focus on regional development, opportunity identification, infrastructure appraisal through our complex project-based consulting work, obviously industry development, and in particular, DataAU can assist with that. Local government financial sustainability, policy advisory as well, and other activities such as stakeholder engagement, preparation of proposals, business cases, and then the service areas being economics, finance, market research, obviously the space that I head up in the data visualization and data access through DataAU as well. So in and of itself, DataAU is a wider platform than more than just the tourism portal. It is secure, online and up-to-date economic and socio-demographic data instantly available at any time. It is a market-leading data viz platform, and it's built to serve that wide range of organisations who benefit from it and a wide range of workflows as well within those organisations. There are other sessions that I've recorded that do speak specifically to the benefits of DataAU and some of the use cases. At the end of this session, I'll look to try and record or talk through a couple of use cases for other regions that have benefited from the platform. But AEC of itself supports DataAU for over 3 decades through their economic consulting, data management, analysis, and visualization as well. Myself is in the top left as the one that heads up DataAU, but as I mentioned, many different core competencies and service areas mean that we've got a much wider team that do support unique queries and requirements throughout through the service that we provide. What I want to do is just touch on some of the core features that would be synonymous across data visualization in general, and then address some of the unique features that fit within DataAU as well. So in essence, data topics is one of the most important or fundamental parts of a data visualization platform. We've read in over 400 unique data topics, raw data, dynamic topics, interpretive data as well, proprietary data, agency data, modeled data. There's a lot of information to provide extensive and consistent data. The DataAU as a platform, the goal is to provide data at a nationally consistent and comparable level so that you're able to compare your region across a range of interesting and unique statistics to identify those anomalies that might benefit yourself or your region or your priorities within your workload. In addition to the data, there's modelling that we've built into the platform as well. Whilst there are other platforms that do provide this, it's a pretty useful tool that you're able to access and run economic impact and event impact modelling and other bespoke modelling to understand exactly how your region can be impacted by economic shock throughout your local economy. This is backed by methodologies that AEC Group have used through their complex-based consulting over 3 decades. We have automated reporting that we've built in as well. This is anything from identifying at a granular level individual local area statistics for one particular region or for a multitude of reasons based on your account. Semantic mapping is another important area where we visually highlight areas of change or anomalies within a region across a colour-coded map, which is a good way to identify variables within data topics. And I can show you what that looks like as well. And obviously the support and training that we provide specifically through sessions like this, through our comprehensive online support as well, and through onboarding for new and existing clients as well. That's obviously one of our mainstays. For each of our subscribers, they have unlimited access to the amount of users within an organisation to facilitate the wide range of workflows and I think success stories that people can share from DataAU as well. So what I want to do now is just talk about some of those unique modules that we've built in to interrogate the data that you have available to you to identify unique anomalies within your region. So there's quite a few different modules that we've built into DataAU. And today, obviously talking about the tourism portal, we've added another one to that list as well. So starting with the profile builder, this is an online dynamic updating curated snapshot of your region. The story that you tell. You're able to put in data that highlights community and economic features, dynamically updating to tell a unique story. The grant assistant, which could also be called a data assistant or a business case assistant, it really reinterprets the data or breaks it down to identify different areas of need through areas of interest. So if it might be a funding proposal at a particular time of year, you can identify certain data sets that might fit within a topic of interest, such as housing or green infrastructure or resilience or healthcare provisions. Urban densification, for example. There's a lot of different topics that might be of interest to you based on the information you seek, and there's a re-representation or an intuitive way to access data and insights through DataAU. Megatrends is also, in a similar sense, another way of presenting areas of interest in terms of data topics or categories to highlight those trajectories of change within a particular region. So looking through those is obviously an intuitive way to identify what's happening within your region and what's changing. Projections, obviously backing up some of the information that you're able to review through an economic shock, such as a model or activity within your region or growth potential can be substantiated through strategic projections across economic or wealth, so your gross regional product, your estimated resident population, your labour force or your employment stats as well. Identifying this across custom catchments for any number of regions across Australia give you a good basis for comparison for your region versus any others as well. The last 3 are quite involved modules that we've built in that do really help to stand you apart from the rest in terms of identifying unique insights. The first one I want to touch on, and I put some slides together for you to show you what its use case can look like, is the competitive assessment. So this is a detailed supply chain assessment of your region. It identifies upstream and downstream activities. There is an interactive cluster map which highlights growth potential and representation across each industry sector within your region, down to the 114 subsector level as well. The carbon modelling is another area of interest for us, where we identify historic levels of carbon emissions within your region and an outline of key contributing categories, as well as future emissions ranges. This one is a game changer. It's the first of its kind in Australia to break down carbon emissions by category and sub-state area. So you can use those unique insights to form and really measure your approach or your carbon journey, either toward or beyond net zero, depending on your larger strategic goals. Obviously, as I mentioned, the data and the quality of that data is paramount. So all of these modules are informed by primary agency and model data And that is what we read into the back end and we use through our consulting work at AEC as well. So, yeah, what you'll see is you'll be able to access all of those things. But without further ado, I just want to jump straight in and show you exactly what the tourism portal looks like. I'm going to break it down, I suppose, over the next 4 slides. The tourism portal displays your region's tourism activity through a visually compelling interface. It highlights important metrics, including statistics like your tourism economy, your visitation, source markets, and interpretation of these insights to inform future trends as well through projections. So information such as your tourism summary data, such as your visitor type, your visitor purpose, or the activities undertaken within your region. Visitor source markets, or what you could also refer to as origin locations of your visitors, both domestically and internationally as well. And then also your future projections for your region and for your state as well, what that actually looks like. And how you might be able to support those activities or those future projections through your advocacy work as custodians of managing your destinations. Most importantly, and not a slide that's in here, is the ability to compare your region against any others as well. If you have a region of a similar population size or business destination visitation, you might be able to understand what they actually excel in or what you excel in through location quotients as well. If it's all right with everyone, what I'm going to do is jump straight into a demonstration of the platform. I think it's probably the best way to go. So what you'll be doing is jumping onto dataau.com.au. The website contains more information about the product and then a lot of updates through our resource centre. I'd encourage you all to check that out as well. If I click onto that really quickly, you can see data articles that we've been updating where you can see unique insights into the data. So whilst you're able to access data topics yourselves, we've taken it a step further and interpreted some of that, given the context to what's happening across some of the agency data that we've collected and read into the platform itself. You'll find news and updates, some information through our knowledge base as well, and then data releases as well. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of updates coming into the new year for that section too. But if I click on your dashboard, what it's going to do is it's going to take me through to the dynamic dashboard where I can navigate any areas of interest from exploring data insights, which I will cover today to a certain extent, and then some of the other modules that are contained within the platform. But what I want to do is just click on Tourism Portal up the top here and show you what you're able to access and what information you can look at. So if you subscribe to the multiple local government areas as well, select your desired area to open the corresponding tourism regions dashboard. For the purposes of today's demonstration, I've logged in with an account as Brisbane LGA. So what I'm able to see is visitation projections, source market, and a point of comparison to the Brisbane LGA. So your region's key statistics can be compared to those to any other government area, as I mentioned. Just use this search function here to find those ones out. Now your summaries page highlights your visitation statistics. So your visitor nights, your average length of stay, consumption amount per day and night, or consumption per trip, as well as projections as well, visitors and visitor nights. So this is a dashboard that you're able to use to compare against any other region. So for example, if I were to key in Moreton Bay, I can see and instantly compare any of these statistics across these summary areas, including the projections into the future as well. I'm just going to clear this one and take you through to the next screen, the visitation screen. So this section provides a detailed breakdown of the visitor statistics for the region by visitor type. So in this first tab here, by the purpose of visit and by the activity undertaken as well. So what does this all mean? There's a lot of information on these screens. We've included a lot of interpretive text to help explain as you familiarise yourself with this module. But essentially, what I'm highlighted over visitors by type. I'm looking at the Brisbane LGA. I can see my summary statistics in the top right, but as I hover down, I can see these key areas, categories by visitors for my LGA. Listed up the top here is Brisbane. I'm looking at it for the 2021-22 financial year, but I can view any individual year up to 10 years history to see what the activity and what the spread looks like. And this first donut being the LGA or the region of interest, but it also gives a point of comparison to the state and to the nation as well. So I can see that across any year for the last 10 years there. Breakdown of the legend is just at the bottom there as well. If I were to key in another area, so I'll stick with Morton, if I click on them, I can see a inset donut as well that gives that point of comparison across those categories for the region, and then across the 10 years of historic information. Now, moving to the right, I can see the cluster map. Again, I'm still in visitors by type. I can actually see in this cluster map, what its goal is to achieve is to provide a visual representation of the strength of your LGA's visitation by the type of visitor. Essentially, what I'm looking for is the growth potential, low on the left, high on the right, the cluster concentration, underrepresented at the bottom, overrepresented at the top, if there's the best way to summarize it. So with that information there, what I'm looking at is these green dots here highlighting the underrepresented but high growth potential across the subcategories that are highlighted. Now, I know that's a lot of information to take in, but as you click further, essentially what you're looking for is out of this third quadrant here in the cluster map, your categories of interest that are highlighted there. And you can see as I hover over the top, I can dynamically understand a little bit more about each of these circles. I can also select each individual category for more information. Now, sticking with visitors by type, if I hover over or if I move the mouse to the right, I can view the location quotients, data that is built into that cluster map, but identifying across each category which subset of data is underrepresented or overrepresented relative to the location quotient of 1 here. Now, location quotient of 1 indicates that the state and your LGA have the same share of visitor type. Anything over that, so for example, a location quotient of 2 would mean your LGA has twice that share of visitor type relative to your state. Moving across, there is also contribution to growth, which is also represented in the cluster map. But what you can also see is the contribution to growth, either positive or negative, highlighted there across each subset of category information as well. That's all the information that's contained through visitors by type. I can also view the visitors by purpose of visit and activity undertaken. So as I move across, the purpose of visit, I can view the same information being the 10 years of historic data across each category. So a purpose of visit, visiting relatives, holidays, business, visiting friends, or medical reasons. I can see all of those areas of interest for visitation highlighted in this donut of visitor activity within my region, and then relative to the state and then relative to the nation as well. Once again, I can use this information to compare against any other region by typing it in here. Now, the cluster map, once again, the more that you come across these, the more familiar they become. But essentially, identifying these, this area of interest, the third quadrant, your underrepresented and high growth potential, I can select individual topics based on an area of interest. If I was looking to compare for medical reasons, I can see that that one is considered at a location quotient of 1.71, which is above the 1, overrepresented, hence the blue dot, and hence it is above the line here. But it is also considered relative to the other categories as a subset, a high growth potential because it is to the right of the vertical line. Again, that information is broken down in the next 2 tabs. Your location quotients by category for the purpose of visit to an LGA that you've selected is listed here. And you can see under and overrepresented categories easily identifiable by the red or green bars. If I move across further, you've got your contribution to growth. So what is contributing to the growth within your local government area or your tourism region, depending on the geography that you've selected up the top here, either positive or negative. Lastly, and looking similarly, you might start to get familiar with the content that is contained here. If I move back across to these main screens, you can see the donut, the representation of activity undertaken within my local government area by visitor mix. So my visitor mix here is represented with the legend at the bottom relative to the state and to the nation, with the 10 years of financial year data that's presented as well. This is a much more granular type. The types of activities that are recorded is quite a lot. As you can see, you can hover over and identify quite a few of these. Obviously, you're looking for those anomalies that do outlie, and if there are any, what you can actually do to best represent that through stakeholder engagement or whatever purpose you seek from accessing these insights as well. Moving forward, I've got the location quotients for each activity undertaken. So quite a large spread there, and quite a few outliers, large outliers in terms of over-representation to an LGA, which can happen in a large city, the likes of Brisbane, for example. If I were to move further into the contribution to growth, I can see more information here about what is contributing to growth. So eating out or dining at restaurants and cafes is a large contributor by multiple factors as well, which is no surprise to me, given the LGA and perhaps the destination marketing or tourism opportunity that LGA could provide. If I do key in another region just out of interest, I'll show you what that actually looks like. Just keyed in Moreland for a change. It also presents relative areas. What I might do is just clear that one and go back to another region. So just showing you what that looks like. Again, going back into activity undertaken, I can see a comparison with different shapes on this graph. I can see the inset donut as well, but I can also see that Visit Farm Gates is one of the major represented activities for Moreton Bay over the Brisbane LGA. If I were to click forward into Eat Out or Dine, I can see that Brisbane has a larger contribution to growth of the subset of eating out or dining at a restaurant or a cafe relative to Moreton Bay as well. But this, again, you might start to form the opinion that this is a really good way to identify specific activities that are contributing to your region's economic growth when it comes to visitation by activity, purpose, and type. There's a lot of information that's contained there. And I think what it's worth doing is comparing that to a lot of other LGAs. If you don't have a subscription just yet, obviously I can provide more information on that toward the end. Moving forward though, what I want to do is show you the source market or origin location as well. Again, logged in as Brisbane for the financial year. What it does is it breaks down the domestic market or domestic visitors to the Brisbane LGA based on the state of residence for the domestic market. And then also the international market, where international travellers are coming from as a breakdown. So I can sort highest to lowest, or I can sort alphabetically depending on my output requirements. And I can use that to compare to any other region as well across Australia. So I can see there a clear delineation or a clear breakdown of the two different areas that I've selected. Now, finally, the projections. So this is an important tab to show you what the future might hold for your region. And obviously, we rely on a lot of data that is read in from Tourism Research Australia. As soon as we have access to that, we treat that data, de-identify it, read it into the DPS, and then make it available through DataAU instantaneously. So the same information and access that we use internally is immediately made available to everyone who does log in to DataAU. What you can see here is a relative percentage for the state, and obviously because I've selected two LGAs for the one state, it shows the one dotted line for the state figures. But then I can use that information to identify what's happening with each LGA moving forward from the present line here, from the current financial year. So I can look at visitors or visitor nights as well. So that's a bit of information about the tourism portal. What I might actually do is just jump back, because what I've done through the presentation is highlight a couple of areas of interest and use cases through some of the other modules that regions have used. So out of interest, what I've done, a little bit different to previous webinars, I put together some information for a neighbouring regional council to myself, Charters Towers, who were wanting insights into their region. And just to show you some basic ideas of what the platform can do, before you even log in, you can access this page where you can see summary statistics that we read in as a dynamic topic into our data processing server. So you can see population data, average age, unemployment rate, gross regional product, employment, average household income, with much more information via a public-facing taxonomy browser too. This in particular is one section that I wanted to show you, being the competitive assessment. So as you can see, I've taken a still from the first page, which is our dynamic facing cluster map. You can see in the top left here, it highlights Charters Towers as the region. And what I'm looking at here is all sectors. So this is 19 sectors, 19 circles, representing its relative interconnectivity from each sector to the other for the LGA of Charters Towers. So this is the dynamic overview. I've hovered over the top to show you, and you can see through that cluster map the relative or the location quotient, so its representation, as well as its percentage growth potential over the next 5 years relative to other industries in the area. Also the size of the circle, same in the tourism portal as well. The size of the circle here represents the size of the industry in terms of full-time equivalent jobs. Moving to the next screen as well, the Sankey graph, what all of that means from the previous screen. It combines, or amalgam is a $1.5 billion economy within the LGA of Charters Towers. And what we're looking at through the Sankey graph, or this image on screen, is the upstream and downstream activity, the relative interconnectivity between local businesses. So that's in terms of input purchases and sales, the propensity for local goods and services to be consumed by local households and government, and the amount of goods and services to be imported into and exported from a local region's economic geography as well. So I'll blow that up a little bit bigger. And what you're looking at is upstream and downstream activity. Now, each of these color-coded sections, if you look right to the bottom there is a legend as well that I've included. Each of these sections theoretically have 19 or 20 sectors available with data. But just for the simplicity of this screen, we've broken it down to highlight the top 5 contributing components to each of these categories. So light blue, local goods and services; green, imports purchased outside the local economy; and then purple, other inputs to production, with exports on the lower right side being a large representation to its downstream activities within the local economy as well. This screen here is one of the blocks, another re-representation of ANZAC sector value, both upstream and downstream activities within an LGA. You can also break this down by individual industry within an LGA as well. So very granular data that you're able to access. As you can see, this is ranked by value and not ANZAC sector, with mining being the largest contributor to upstream and downstream activity within Charters Towers local government area. Wanted to show you the carbon emissions profile as well really quickly before I open the floor to any questions and any further information as well. I've just produced the variable report for Charters Towers to show what 10 years of historic emissions across each contributing carbon category. So you've got industrial processes, agriculture, land use change and forestry, waste, and also energy, which has the 3 subcategories of fugitive emissions, fuel combustion, and CO2 transport and storage. And we're actually looking at reading those in to provide further granular breakdown of the contributing carbon categories across the 10 years of carbon emissions to get a better idea on the profile of each region. But what we do with this to provide the variable scorecard and what you can do with this moving forward, the last 5 years are used to inform a future baseline trend with an up and a down 25% split to essentially inform if you are on target, if you are looking to achieve by 2030, the far right side of that graph, a net zero position, are you on track given your last 5 years of activity? Is that how you're measuring it? What we do with this is much more detailed at the AEC level as well. We provide much or detailed reporting and stakeholder engagement when it comes to carbon emissions profiles and carbon journeys for each individual region. But DataAU subscribers have access to this information on screen as well. The individual CO2e or carbon equivalent emissions for each LGA and its proportionate measure, both in terms of net positive emissions relative to the state and to the nation, and net negative emissions. If you have what's called carbon sequestration activities within your region, you can see how that compares against the state and the nation as well. So a very detailed report that you can produce instantly for your region. I would like to open the floor up to any questions, but just before I flick through, I'll say thank you very much for attending as well at this juncture. But what I'll do is I'll just move back to DataAU's website and just show you some of these activities, in particular exploring data insights, because if nothing else, it's important to familiarise yourself with how to interrogate or understand where to find data topics across the website. So Explore Data Insights is arguably one of the most important fundamentals to get across for DataAU. So once you click on Explore Data Insights, you've got your map, your ability to navigate any regions of interest by geography, as you can see on this side, the lower right here. If I was looking to compare a multitude of regions, so what I can do is I can zoom in, and let's stick with Brisbane because we've been doing that. I can see I've highlighted just Brisbane there. If I want to add in another region, I can just click add another area there, and I can select Moreton Bay. I've been working with Moreton Bay as well. So I can type in that. Now, you can customize the names for each of these regions, and the reason for that is if I were to start another area, I can create what I would call a custom catchment. So I've included Gold Coast, Logan, and Scenic Rim in this one. So I might call that one SEQ Other or something like that. But essentially, this is a custom catchment that is a culmination of 3 local government areas. Now, what I can do with these custom catchments or geographies is interrogate any of the data that sits within the following tabs, provided it's data that's collected at that relative geography. So you've got options for regional development areas, destination zones, which I'll show you, it re-represents the graph, and you'll see the green lines there are the delineations for data that's collected within those particular geographies. You've got your tourism regions, travel zones for New South Wales, and the data that we collect or provide is as granular as the FA1 levels. So if I zoom right into Brisbane, you can see that does get quite specific when you're talking about a breakdown of data. But if I zoom back out, what I can do to verify the regions that I've selected, just select one, select the other. I can see how I move from each area, and it highlights the different areas or custom catchments that I've created. So now I'm going to click on economy, and I'm going to view a data topic that I'm looking for. I can search for a topic in here if I want. So if I'm looking for something like a proprietary data set that AEC has created, I can type in AEC and I can identify local growth factors within my economy, within the 3 custom catchments that I've created. Looking at export growth factors. So this data topic, it shows me the title, AEC indicators, export growth factors. This helps to understand the key sources of economic growth for your region by understanding economic outputs from export-reliant sectors as a proportion of gross sector value add over time. If there's any data topics as well, I might mention that cause any issues or raise any questions, feel free to get in touch with myself or a member of the team, and we can provide much more clarity on any of these as well. Your reference for each data set is below that, and then you can see individual data topics or geographies mapped out over a time series if that's relevant to the data topic. This particular data topic is best displayed as a line graph. You can also view every data topic as a raw data table as well. There are plenty more that do show in different formats. So chain volume measure for each industry sector, obviously a lot of data that's been shown there is only shown as a raw data table, but you would have seen this average cost of houses, for example, is shown as a column or a bar graph. For some of these that are indexes, you can also use the comparison to a national figure as well. So you can see how you compare against a national average or figure, which can be useful in some instances. Now, exporting that is just as simple as clicking on Add to Cart and the message will appear, or I can select a download option for an image if I wish to put this straight into a report. If I move across, all the data sits similarly across these different tabs, or what I refer to as the taxonomy. If I click on the data cart, what I can see here is a couple of things. The ability to search for topics across the 3 custom catchment areas I created from the map in the top left. So if I wanted to search for information on population, and this is a good example, it shows me that data for population sits across multiple headings of the taxonomy. So if I was looking for specific data topics, something such as maybe estimated resident population, maybe I want that information. If I select that, I can see that that's in people, and I can search for that across the entire taxonomy by going to the data cart and typing in the top column there. The other reason that this screen is important is because it shows me the data availability at the range of geographies that you're able to access through DataAU. So I can see that estimated resident population for the 2021 census is available at the local government area. but also statistical area data sets and the state as well. So once that's done, I can download that as an Excel document, and what it will do is it'll produce a folder that'll create 3 Excel documents, and as you can see, they're named based on the naming conventions that I specified on the map screen as well. So there's a lot of information that's contained in DataAU. What I'm hoping to achieve is to get these sessions up and regularly presenting to yourselves into 2023. If you do have any questions, feel free to raise them in this forum.